realize. Okay. Okay. So as we get underway with the learning, I realized as we're sitting before Parshat Bahar B'chukotai, we have a bingo. And the bingo is that you noticed until now, we never had the source for how we know that he's supposed to blow shofar from Rosh Hashanah. You ever notice? Never. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. It's on Lamed Gimel, but it's because we have a Parsha bingo. I couldn't resist to make mention of it. That it's really a mitzvah based on the fact that Torah says Yom Trua in Parshat Pinchas, and the idea that we have in our parsha that there's going to be a shofar trua that will be sounded on the Yom Kippur of Yovel. Our last shiurim talked about the connection. We said it, just it was in the actually in what we were talking about. Yeah, in the Mishnah, right? Shavuot Rosh Hashanah, and then it went on, and then at the end on Chavav Mebet, they pointed out Shava Hayovel Rosh Hashanah L'Tkiya V'Lebrachot, and we thought the headquarters is Rosh Hashanah. By the way, once in a Yovel, it's Yovel, and you're going to have shofar on Yom Kippur. But it's really the other way. Because when it calls it a Yom Trua, maybe Yom Trua means everybody should shout, Hariu Lifnei Melech Hashem. Maybe everyone should sing, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be blowing shofar. We have a Gzera Shava, and that Gzera Shava is in our parsha. And you have a Dvar Torah for the parsha, right here. Right? V'safart l'cha sheva shabtot shanim sheva pe'amim v'hayu l'cha yemei sheva shabtot shanim teisha v'arba'im shana v'avarta shofar trua b'chodesh hashvi'i be'asor l'chodesh. Now, I'm not just doing this because the parsha. Oh, sorry, I should finish. B'yom ha'kippurim ta'aviru shofar b'chol artzechem. So the mention specifically of the shofar trua, and the Gzera Shava is Yom Trua and Trua, and this is the parsha Behar, that mentions the notion of shofar Trua, that the expression of Trua will be through a shofar. Now, you didn't have to know this because you grew up going to shul, so of course Rosh Hashanah you blow a shofar, but it's not so obvious when you look in a Sefer Torah. For instance, in Parshat Emor, this is why I was thinking about it on Shabbos. Of course, Rosh Hashanah is mentioned. Yeah. But you notice something's missing. So now just listen, right? Vayidber Hashem Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael lemor. B'chodesh hashvi'i b'echad hachodesh yelachem Shabbaton zichron trua mikra kodesh. Kumalach v'dalo ta'asu v'kraftim mishal Hashem. It's not a trua. It's a zichron trua. Yeah. Now we have drushes and drushes on this. Shabbaton zichron trua. If it's Shabbos, there'll be a zichron trua. If it's not a Shabbos, then you'll actually do a trua. When you look in our parsha Shavua, Behar, Sinai, we realize that the source is actually from here. Further, V'kidashtem et shnat ha'chamishim shno kratim dror ba'aretz l'chol yeshvei yovel hi tiyeh lachem v'shavtem ish el achuzato. Right? It's going to you should sanctify the 50th year. Call it a time of freedom for all of its inhabitants. It's a yovel for you. And everyone should go back to their family, to their plot of land, their family. Yeah. And again, Yovel hi shnat ha'chamishim shana. But if you think about the idea of what I say Yovel in English, what's the English translation of Yovel? It's Jubilee, isn't it? Jubilee. Yeah, of course it's Jubilee. But it is Jubilee, right? It is Jubilee, but it is also. Hold on.
Which, by the way, the last Yovel year was 2004.
Okay, well, depending how you count, etc. Right, right. But now listen to this. Lotigavo. This is from. Well, you'll recognize it right here. Vigbalta et ha'am saviv lemor. Getting to Shavuot, so we should think we're going to lane this parsha maybe in the wee hours of the morning, but still for some of us. Vigbalta et ha'am saviv lemor. Should delimit the nation around the mountain, saying, don't touch the mountain. Don't go up the mountain. Don't touch the mountain. If you touch it, you'll die. Don't go up. You'll die. You'll be stoned. You'll be thrown off the mountain. But rather, after the Jubilee, you'll go up the mountain. But that's not what the word Yovel means. The word Yovel means the sound of the shofar. The word Yovel, in the context of Matan Torah, is a reference, another way of saying a shofar. And the year, which is the Jubilee year, its other translation is it's the year of the shofar, as indicated by the shofar trua, Va'avartem shofar trua, on Yom Kippurim of that year, and it takes on that name. Now you'll ask me, why is it alternate between a shofar and a yovel? That's taka, a good question. You have it also in Parashat Yitro, but I bring this up for several reasons. One, because it's a Parashat Shavua. Two, because it's an obvious point, and it's interesting when you look at the Moni HaMitzvot, you look in the Sefer HaChinuch in Parshat Pinchas, you open up the Rambam at the very beginning of Hilchot Shofar Sukkah V'Lulav. The first thing they say is it's a mitzvah min Torah from the words Yom Trua, and it's Gzera Shava of Yom Trua and Shofar Trua from Parshat Bahar. And a third reason, and it has to do with this word V'Havarta, as we'll see soon. V'Havarta, you should sound, but La'avor is to pass something, or V'Havarta to pass in a certain way. That language is going to be instructive in tonight's Gemara. So bookmark it. You'll see it's going to come up as part of the discussion that we'll have momentarily. Let me take questions, comments on this maybe too long introduction, but hopefully it frames for you what the word Yovel means. Parshat Bahar, you have a great Dvar Torah for the Parsha already. It's good. And what else would be back? Yeah.
You explained it. I didn't grasp. How do we know Yovel equals shofar?
When the Torah uses the expression Shoch HaYovel, Hema Yalu Vahar, the word Yovel is not referring to an amount of time, but to the conclusion of the sound of the shofar. That's another name for a shofar. It's called a Yovel. That's what's going on in Parsha Yitro.
Certainly no Yovel nearby Har Sinai.
No, it's just Bim Shoch HaYovel when the shofar ends. When it finishes, that's when you'll go up. You let Rashi here HaYovel Hu Shofar Shel Ayil Shkein Ba'aravya Korin Ledachra Yuvla. Okay. V'shofar she'elo she'yitzchak haya. That's it. It's a synonym. Again, now why does it alternate? We'll come back to another time.
It just struck me that you were equating Zipro Shuas to Zecher on Shabbos, because we all know that not blowing the shofar on Shabbos is the Rabbanan. And here you're drawing an inference from
No. The Chazal do. Chazal say when we're stuck and we can't blow a shofar for some reason, so what do we have? We have a Zichron true.
Yeah, I know, but to
no, that's true. That's true.
In the Torah,
that's true.
A little bit strange.
Well, stick with me. We're getting there in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah. Ask me the question then. Like, how would that be? But it's the sugya in the fourth parak. Exactly. It's a sugya in the fourth parak. But I didn't make it up. It's an Indian like that. Yeah. Okay. Good. Now into the Mishnah and the Gemara. We're ready. Okay. We're on the bottom of Chav Zayin with Aleph. Shovash and Nizdak over here. Yeah. The shofar cracked. Bottom of Chav Zayin with Aleph. Next, the Mishnah. At the Mishnah. Yeah. So shofar shenizdak udvako puzzle. It cracked. You stuck it back together. It's not kosher. It's not going to work. How did you stick it back together? Rashi tells you bedevek shekorin glud. 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 It's right there. So it says, glued. You glued it. So it's puzzle. Why? Because it's like two shofarot. The havale kishnei shofarot. Next. Let's keep going. Okay. Nikev ustambo. If you punctured it, and then you filled in that which had been punctured. So im me'akev et hatkiya puzzle. V'im lav kosher. If it somehow impeded the sound of the tkiya from coming out, then it would be puzzle. But if not, it's kosher.
What if it changes the sound?
That's right. That's coming into Gemara. That's a braita. Right. But that's a question. So here it's ma'akev. Well, I'll come to a broader, or more precise definition later, what the ikuv actually is. So I have to see it. Hatokelo tochabor, o tochadut, o tochapitas. We saw these words before. This was quoted earlier in the on Chavav Amidbet when we were discussing the issue of hearing the beginning of the shofar and not the end of its sound, or the end of it and not the beginning. So the example for you heard the beginning, but then the rest of it got garbled is you blew the shofar into some kind of a space, whether that space is a cave. A dut is something that is some kind of a structure is partially above ground, mostly below ground. And the third one is the pitas is some kind of a massive like cask, like a barrel you would see in a winery, but not like a barrel, like a fermenting barrel, massive thing. So in those cases, we say in kol shofar shama yatsa, in kol avara shama lo yatsa. You heard the original sound, you're good. But once you get to the garbled sound that's coming back, it's a reverberation. It's an echo, but it is an echo. But I was avoiding the term because usually when people think of an echo, they think of I'm standing in the valley and hello, and it says back hello, But it's the same idea. But the point is, it doesn't come back that way. It comes back, and the actual original sound is now convoluted because it's intermingled with the sound waves that are reverberating off the walls. So it just depends. In kol shofar shama yatsa, in kol havar shama lo yatsa. V'chein mishaya over achore beit hakneset, o shahaya beito samach lebeit hakneset, v'shama kol shofar, o kol megillah, im kivein libo yatsa, v'im lav lo yatsa. Af vi shezeh shama v'zeh shama, zeh kivein libo, v'zeh lo kivein libo. So a person is walking behind the shul, and or they're in their house, they're outside of the shul. They hear the sound of the shofar, or they hear the Megillah being read. If they had in mind to be Yotze, then it works. But if not, then not. Even though they're both hearing, in both cases, the Kavanat Halev is determinative. The Radbaz asked the following Shaila.
Isn't that true with any mitzvah? You need kavanah to be Yotze.
True. But if the person who is in the position to be the Baal Tokeya or the Baal Kore, and they have in mind, I'll be Motzi anywhere the sound goes, that's only half the equation. We're talking about someone who's outside that the person didn't necessarily have in mind, but anyone who'll hear it, will hear it.
Difference between hearing and listening.
I guess, yeah. So the Radbaz says, well, what if someone's sitting inside? Why are you giving me the example? You're outside of shul. What if, not that it would ever happen, but what if a person was sitting inside shul and they were, I think the technical term is spaced out. Daydreaming, whatever. They're awake, but they're not really plugged in. They're not focused. So they wouldn't be Yotze, right? So what does that mean? Why did you give me the example of Chorei Beit HaKnesset? And he answers, essentially, that when you're in the shul, you've already created the context. So that even if you don't have the right kind of kavanah, the place where you are indicated that's what you're here for. So the assumption is you had kavanah. This person didn't have kavanah. They had enough kavanah to know that they didn't have kavanah. It's good enough. But when you're outside of the space, then you really have to be connected. That's not going to be enough. You're, I don't know what, I don't know, whatever you do. You're washing your hands and you heard the sound of a shofar. Oh, I think I was just Yotze, You have to at least have in mind, I want to be Yotze on the mitzvah of shofar.
The analogy is you're always considered to be Yotze Kriyat Shema if it's in the context of davening. But if it's not in the context of davening,
you better be plugged in. Okay. So that's, so to think about the setting. It's just interesting idea.
We had this Shiloh that came up when it was COVID, because we had the whole thing about outside, and the issue of Megillah was outside, and the issue of shofar was outside.
It's true. Taka.
So I remember Rav Schechter came up with these whole
blowing the shofar with a mask on it at the door.
So cold here then.
You remember that? That was wild. We did it. Okay.
A quick question, which I'm sure.
Forgettable. Totally forgettable. Yeah.
Later. Why is when it's split, and I'll make an assumption here that you restored the split so that the sound was perfect. But that one seems to hold by, let's call it the physical nature of the shofar, versus the others are about sound.
They seem to be about sound in some way.
If that's going to be addressed later, that's fine.
No. So this is a question, right? In terms of the first element of the Mishnah, it seems to be somehow about the integrity of the object. There's something about the wholeness of the object, right? Right. And then you put it back together somehow. You stuck it together with glue.
Right.
Sight for sore eyes, but okay. It's patchwork.
It's a clean split. I mean, just a crack. Yeah, let's say a crack. I mean, the other one, when it says hole, it doesn't say, well, you have a hole there, so if you plug the hole, it comes back and says if it can produce a sound, then it's fine.
Yeah. Yep,
So
yep,
why
yep.
would that standard be different depending on how it gets, let's call it destroyed or not? It's not on the horn, on the shofar itself, one's on the sound. Why are they different?
An important
Is that the
question.
that's gonna be
No,
looked
no,
at?
well, it's an important question to go into the Gemara with.
Okay.
Because
Wait,
the first line of the Mishnah is unlike the rest of it. You're right, because the rest of it, at least in terms of the patchwork, or whether it's a whole, right, whether it's
Whole and echo, everything's about
echo is the
sound.
sound somehow,
Right.
right? But the first sentence is going to be certainly about the construct.
And then,
Yeah, go ahead.
what's going to be a split and a hole, or, I mean, we can have a whole discussion about that, but then.
Right.
The Gemara will get there.
It will. And there's also the question, because the organization of the Mishnah, you have first, it's split in half and you glued it together. And then you have a whole section about sounds. And in between is Nikev Ustamo. And we weren't sure, Im Akev et apostle, does it mean the sound doesn't come out? Does it mean it was, Ronnie was one of the things who said, the sound is changed, modified? So now the physical structure changed something about the sound. Maybe that's the problem. Is the problem the structure or is it the sound? This is what the Gemara is now going to get into. That's what we'll get into. But sort of just setting it up and thinking a little bit about these issues. So the Gemara begins. Tana Rabbanan Aruch v'katzro kasher Gard v'hemido al galdo kasher. So the geled is first of all, it was too long and you trimmed it. It's kosher. What's the Havamina to say it wouldn't be kosher?
So there's,
You modified the object that came off the aisle, presumably.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not allowed to play around with it. You have an object, so now you made it less, but the Gemara, the Braita says, no, it's still kosher. You have a shear, it's good enough.
By definition, you're modifying it. You're taking-
By removing it from the animal.
Yeah.
But let's say once,
Wait,
Oh.
not just there. You have to hollow it out.
yes, we'll get to a case of that as well.
So.
So you did something transformative altogether.
Exactly.
So the question becomes, when exactly is a person, it was too long and they cut it. So if you had, the very long shofar, one of the big ones, mostly it's very hard to blow them, and the sound is not necessarily the most whatever the word is, the most it's usually very low sounds. My experience with the very long ones. So you can fix that. How do you fix it? Well, you can give it a little cut. You're chopping off part of that which was used as a shofar. It's a bar mitzvah. You're changing it. So there's a question there. It's at least a question. But the chidush is aruch v'katzro kasher. But you might have thought otherwise. You might have thought once you've transformed it, you've used it, you've declared it as an object of mitzvah. Who told you can just keep cutting slices off it? But it was too long. You decided one day, it's too long. I want to fix it. So okay, you're yotzei.
Also suggest that if it's a process of fabricating it as a chauffeur, you can do whatever you want.
Yes, but once it's already been,
Then that could.
Maybe. Now you have the next one. You're shaving it. Gardo ligared is like to scrape or to shave something. You're removing layers for whatever reason. You had a design on it you didn't like, so you want to take off a layer. Now it's not the length of it, but the width of it is going by the wayside. Nonetheless, so it's still kosher. Ve'amida al glado, geladox is Rashi. A very small, thin layer is left. Still good. Puzzle. If you covered it in gold in the place where the mouth goes, the mouthpiece, puzzle. Kosher. If it's not where the mouth goes, that's okay. If you try to put gold on the inside, puzzle. And the inside it's no good. How come? Because now you're blowing a gold horn, which is covered by a shofar, not the shofar. The sound has to go through the shofar. If you covered it in gold, bibachutz, if you covered it in gold on the outside, if it changed the sound of the shofar's voice from what it was previously, then it's possible. But if not, it's kosher. So if you did something to modify the sound, now, sort of circling back, and now we get to that clause at the top of the Mishnah, but now in a Braita, right? Sorry, nikev ustamo im me'akiv et kia pasul. Im lav kosher. Right? Seems like it's exactly the same as what we saw before. Natan shofar b'toch shofar in kol pnimi shama yatzav. You took one shofar and you put it inside another. If you heard the inner shofar sound, you're good. V'im kol chitzon shama lo yatzav. You heard if you blew the outer one, in other words, you put one inside the other, but the aperture, the mouthpiece, the hole is too narrow. So the one that's the inner one, you can't really get this. So you blow the outer one, but there's another object in there, it's blocking it. So that would be pasul. So let me stop here for a minute before we get to anything else. The nikev ustamo ima'akev et kia pasuvim lav kasher. Does it sound different in this Braita than it did in the Mishnah?
No.
Identical?
Seems to be. Let's look at it.
Identical? I'm asking.
Well, no, so this one, it says imikada, this one says it hinders the blowing. The other one said if the sound is not right?
Ima'akev et kia, and he says ma'akev et kia. It didn't change the sound. It's exactly the same words.
Okay.
Nikev ustamo ima'akev et kia pasul vim lav kasher.
Yeah, same word.
Tosfot-
Same language.
Tosfot discusses it. I've just looked ahead.
Oh, you're very good at looking ahead. We love that about you. Always vision. You're looking ahead. So we're not going to get to Tosfot tonight, actually, because I banked. There's no chance we're getting through it. So I didn't want to go
It's a long
20
one.
minutes into it
It's a
and then
long one.
we got to start again. But you may be onto something. But I just wanted to show you the context in the Mishnah is that Nikev Ustamo was somehow like a bit of a bridge between the physical integrity of this object versus the sound that it makes, because all the later parts of the Mishnah are about the sound that it makes. You blew it into the wrong place, so you didn't hear the right sound, or you didn't have the right kavana. And the one at the beginning of the Mishnah was it split in half and you glued it back together. So now the whole, are we more worried about the integrity or more worried about the sound? And it's a bridge because it's in between both. When you get to the Braita, it's much more just about the sound, right? You covered it in gold on the outside, that's okay, as long as it didn't change the sound. Covered on the inside, definitely not good because it's going to change the sound. If it had a hole and you fix the hole, if it's somehow going to be ma'akiv, it's kia, no good. But if it isn't ma'akiv, it's kia, it's okay.
It's interesting though that when it said you could shorten it, that would change the sound. It just,
Sure.
it
might.
make a different sound.
Yeah.
So and you said when you were talking about that, you used the word that, but there's a shear. And
There is a shear.
okay, so that I just want to jump on that language because if there's a shear, then probably the more could think, okay, as long as you're shortening it and there's a good shear, I mean, it's like
Still a
you can
shear.
have an apple, it's still a shear,
Yeah.
and that's the minimum. Maybe there's a requirement beyond that. It doesn't say that here, but maybe that would be okay. But it would change the sound.
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
Well, physically speaking,
Mina stam.
the shorter shofar requires less air.
Well, it's
To
less where
create
it less to
force.
travel. Yeah.
So it actually improves the sound, I think.
Well, and the eye of the beholder improves, denigrates, depends what kind of sound you're looking for.
We want to make sure that the kahal can hear it.
So, or maybe they could hear the long one, they hear the short one.
If it split at the end and there was still a shear and you chopped it
Oh.
and got rid of it,
So would you
that
fix
be
it?
kosher? Yeah, would that be okay?
So
I mean, I'm sure.
and that's the question, by the way. A shofar shenizdak, what does it mean shenizdak?
Yeah.
Does it mean it's just a crack in it? Does it mean it's literally in two different pieces? Right? And Rashi said at the beginning, at the bottom, the last Rashi in Chav Samim Aleph, the Havale Kishte Shofarot. Right? But Nizdak is not, you literally had two pieces, but it's like it's two pieces because there's no longer an integrity of the whole thing held together. So let's say you had some of it held together, but the end of it had a crack. Could you just cut that part off and kosher up the shofar? So we have to keep going into Gemara to get some more of this. Ira and then Francie, please.
Quickly, does the Gemara ever discuss the size of the crack to make it puzzle? Because the issue is if there's a little, let's say there's a little blemish, it's a little crack, but you still can get this. It's not totally cracked, in the sense that maybe just a slight crack.
We're gonna get to a little bit. There's gonna be something about it coming up along these lines. Exactly. along these lines. Francie, please.
Good kosher shofar, 6 men blow from it, and you could get 6 different sounds.
Yeah, depends on your airflow, depends on how the lips are positioned,
Depends on the person.
depends on the humidity, depends on the person, the power, for sure, for sure. Let's keep going in the Gemara. So the Gemara here points out, Tana Rabbanan. I'm 2 lines up on the last 2 of the narrow lines on Chav Zayin Mebedek. Tana Rabbanan. Gerda bin bifnim, ben b'chutz kasher. You could shave it down on the inside, the outside, doesn't matter. Gardo, vehamido, it's not really shaved, it's more like to scrape something off, yeah? Gardo, vehamido al glado, kasher. As long as it had something left, it's good enough. We saw that already. The bride's just quoting sort of support to what we said previously. Shofar. Okay, sounds exactly like we had before. Now we have another idea we haven't seen previously. Second, of the wider lines. If you turn it upside down and you blow into it, you're not yotze. Rav Papa qualifies that it doesn't literally mean that you turned it around and blew into the wide end, which by the way is also possible. We'll see in a minute. But Rav Papa says, lo tema de hafche kikatuna, don't like the ketonet, is it like a robe? Don't think it means that you made the shofar go inside out. That's not what lafoch means. Ela shir chivra katzar v'kitzer harachav. It's that you widened the narrow part and you reduced the wide part. Now, how do you do this? A shofar, if you boil it, becomes soft and malleable. It's pliable.
Yeah.
So you could mess around with it. So if you did that, that would not work. My tama, how come this is an issue? Kid Rav Matna. The Amar Rav Matna, what does Rav Matna say? Ring the bell for the special Parsha bingo. V'avarta, derech avarato ba'inan. V'avarta shofar trua b'chodesh hashvi'i, b'asor l'chodesh, b'yom ha'kippurim, ta'aviu shofar b'chol atzechem. It has to go in the way in which it appears on the animal. Now, what does that mean? It goes in the animal? Let's look in Rashi. Let's keep going. Okay, so Rashi tells you, it's top of the page, V'mido glado, geladak, it's a thin layer. Mibifnim puzzle, shatkia bezav. If you put the gold in the inside, it's no good, because you're blowing gold horns, not shofar. Im kol chitzon shama lo yatsa, v'yika mechitzot hapnimi mafseket atkia. If you put the inner shofar and the outer shofar, but you blow the outer shofar and it makes a sound, but there's an inner object there that's blocking the tkiya from coming out properly. Kikatuna kafichat chaluk lasot pnimi chitzon. You took the garment and you turned it inside. That's not what it means. But rather, shikitsot rachav berotchim. You did it in boiling water. V'avarta deverech hav. This is the pasuk we're up to. Quoted here. Derech ha'avarato kederech sheha'ayil ma'aviro berosho babehema mechai. The way in which the ram wears it. Wide part is actually attached to the ram, and it gets narrower, narrower, narrower. So you'll be closest to that part when you get it. So that's, and you have to transform it, obviously, also, because the horn doesn't actually have like a little hole, an aperture. After you remove the horn, still have to, with an awl or a drill or something, you have to make a hole. So, yeah. So, right, to make it. You actually to cut off the end, so that then there's the piece there. And there's also things in there you have to take out, the zachros. We'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, are you with me? So that's right here from our Parsha Shavua. Please.
I think we dealt with this with gold on the outside. How do we deal with Inkategunasa Samegor?
So we talked about it. We said that it would be okay as long as it didn't change the sound, because the sound of the shofar is kilifnai v'lifnim. It's like they're going inside. And therefore the shofar's sound integrity cannot be touched by gold. That's really what we said.
Which would be a major argument that the sound is ma'akev.
Yes.
That's the
And that it's on a very high spiritual level. Because the same, at least according to those who hold from Ein Kategon Nasir as an issue, the Kohen Gadol goes to the Holy of Holies only in white. Ein Kategon Nasir. Remember, the Gemara said, there's a lot of gold in there. What are you talking about? Remember? He said, no, if it's something that's connected to the person and it's going in and it's attached to them, so then it's like that they shouldn't do that. So then we said, okay, so then what's your issue with the shofar? And was the answer kilifnim dami, because the sound has an inward. This is the Gemara talking. It's not Chassid Shavort, which is fine too. I love a good Chassid Shavort, as you know. I'm speaking against it, especially in a night like tonight. But the point is, but the point here is to recognize that kilifnim dami. It's like the sound is an inward sound. It has a ma'amad of tefillah, etc., and that's why it's integrated into the Shemona Esrei shofar. It's integrated in Shemona Esrei. Some communities in Nusach Sfard, Nusach Hari, Idot HaMizrach, it's in the silent Amida. For us, it's in the Chazar HaShatz for various reasons. Yeah, but the deal that it's integrated because it's so much part and parcel of the inward experience. You know, the kiyum is an internal kiyum. So the Gemara here is we got to stop in 2 minutes. I know it's going to happen. Okay, a little parsha, a little Gemara, but you got the source of the mitzvah. It's all good. So the point is that has to be derech havaratol. To go a little further in the Gemara, and we'll have to stop. Dibek shivrei shofar puzzle. If you stuck pieces of broken shofar together to make a shofar, it's puzzle. You made a mosaic. You stuck it together somehow. How did you do it? I don't know. You just did it. The Breita. It's a Breita. So you don't have this in the Mishnah. So where is it from? Tanu Rabbanan. Hosif alav kolshu. Bein mina bein shlo mina puzzle. So there's a Breita that teaches that if you added anything, whether it was made out of shofar material or not, the whole shofar is puzzle. You messed around with it somehow. Then we have nikav ustamo. Bein b'mino bein shlo b'mino puzzle. If it had a hole and you stopped it up, whether it was with its own material, with the shofar or not, you did a shofar transplant. You have the shofar, you have a little hole, so you cut off a little bit from the top of it, and you break it up into pieces. You make a little tiny piece, and you put it in the hole, and you plug it up. So according to the Tanakhama here, puzzle. Rabbi Natan Omer b'mino kasher shlo b'mino puzzle.
Doesn't that contradict the Mishnah?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Rabbi Natan Omer b'mino kasher shlo b'mino puzzle. All right. So Rinatan says if you use the parts of the shofar itself, so that would be kosher. But if it's not with the parts of the shofar, it's going to be puzzle. Rashi and the narrow lines, first of the narrow lines in Rashi, Dibek shivrei shofar v'chulei b'mino kosher im ena ma'akev et tkiya. He throws in if it's not going to be ma'akev et tkiya to bring us back into the Mishnah. Now it turns out according to this, Rabbi Natan is how we paskin in the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah didn't say, if you have a hole in your shofar and you repair it in any way, shape, or form, it's puzzle. It said, as long as it doesn't mess up the sound, it's kosher. Rabbi Natan qualifies to tell you it needs to be b'mino. But if it's shelo b'mino, puzzle. Yeah? If it's b'mino, kosher. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'ushinishtaya rubo. But most of the original shofar has to be intact. Michlal, the shelo b'mino, afi shinishtaya rubo, puzzle. That tells you that if you used even a little fragment that is not really from the min of shofar, you put plaster, you put clay, you put something else in there, even though most of it is still really the original shofar, it's possible. Some take Rabbi Yochanan's words to be on the safe, and they heard them differently, reported them differently. Shalom amino pasul. Rabbi Yochanan nifchat rubo. If it's shalom amino that's pasul, that's in a case where most of it is missing. Michlal de amino. That which means that if you repair the shofar hole with something that was made out of shofar, nifchat rubo, even though most of it is missing, it had to be replaced by this piece, which is also made of shofar. So kosher. That would be kosher. There's two different ways of reading it. Okay, that's 36. Okay, I don't want people to have to run in the last minute. Okay, we're sort of stopping in the middle. I wanted to go further, but best laid plans. I was running amok. Okay, so wait. So next week I'm at the RCA, but let's do the shear next week if we can. It would be great if we could do it. I had a night for it. I can do Wednesday night at 7:00. Wednesday, May 13 at 7 p.m. There's a board meeting after davening. So Wednesday, 7 p.m. Wednesday the 13th, because next week, Monday, Tuesday, I'll be away at the RCA convention. So I can't be two places at once. So that's that. Okay? Yes? So be it resolved. We're adjourned.